Ladies and gentlemen, your life is not controlled by your situation. It is controlled by how you respond to your situation. You don't lose the battle when the problem shows up. You lose when your emotions become your decision maker. Let me tell you something powerful. You can only win when your mind is stronger than your emotions. The battlefield is not your bank account, your relationship, or your environment. It's your mind. And until you master it, every win will still feel like a loss. So today I came to challenge the weak voices in your head, came to expose the emotional traps that are holding your potential hostage. Because once you conquer your emotions, you conquer everything. Emotions are indicators, not dictators. You wake up one morning and feel off. Something in your chest feels heavy. No motivation, no excitement. You begin to question everything, your job, your relationships, your future. That's an emotion. It has arrived to notify you that something is shifting within. But here's the truth. Just because it knocked on your door doesn't mean it deserves a seat at your decision table. Emotions are like the dashboard lights in your car. When the oil light flashes, it's not telling you to stop the car on the freeway and cry. It's telling you to check the engine. That's all. It's information, a signal. But too many people stop driving entirely just because the light came on. They treat feelings like facts. They turn moments into definitions. They confuse a bad day for a bad life. One argument with a friend and they shut down. One failed opportunity and they stop dreaming. One comment from someone they care about and they spiral into self-doubt. Why? Because they made emotions the authority. They allowed feelings to become facts. But emotions are not built to lead. They are meant to serve. Think about it. When you feel anxious before a big opportunity, what is your first instinct? Most people avoid it. I don't feel ready. But that anxiety could simply be excitement wearing the mask of fear. It could be your body reacting to a new level that's trying to enter your life. But because it feels uncomfortable, you assume it's wrong. How many dreams have died not because the person lacked skill, but because they couldn't handle how the journey made them feel? That's why a strong mind is critical. The mind interprets what emotions try to interrupt. A strong mind steps back and asks, why am I feeling this? What is the root of this emotion? Is this moment temporary or is it trying to trap me? It doesn't just react, it responds with clarity. Imagine a firefighter running into a burning building. Do you think they're not scared? Of course they are. But they've trained their mind to operate despite the emotion. The fear is present, but the mission is stronger. The same must be true for your life. You can feel sadness and still keep moving. You can feel anger and still choose not to explode. You can feel doubt and still act with courage. That is the difference between people who win and people who stay stuck. I know people who gave up on love because of one heartbreak. The emotion was real, yes. The pain was real, yes. But they made a dictator out of a feeling that was supposed to pass. They built walls that were only meant to be windows. And now, every time love knocks, they say, not again. But that emotion wasn't meant to be permanent. It was an indicator telling you that you loved deeply, that you cared fully, that you invested something of value. But instead of learning, they let the emotion lead. And it led them into isolation, into fear, into loneliness. Your emotion should inform you, not imprison you. Take the example of someone starting a new business. The excitement is high, but suddenly fear hits. What if I fail? What if people laugh? What if I lose everything? These are emotions, indicators. They're showing you your inner conversations. But too many stop right there. They abandon the idea. They return to comfort zones. They say, it just didn't feel right. But what if that feeling was the necessary discomfort that comes before every growth spurt? Even children understand this. When a baby is learning to walk, they fall, they cry, they feel frustrated, but they keep getting back up. Why? Because they haven't learned to make their emotions their leader yet. But as adults, we forget that. One failure and we label ourselves not good enough. One rejection and we assume we're unworthy. That's the danger of giving emotions a steering wheel. They will drive you off your path every time. Let me speak to you plainly. Your emotions are not evil. They are not the enemy, but they are unstable by nature. You cannot build a stable life on unstable ground. Emotions are waves. If you ride them without direction, they will toss you around. But if you become the captain, if you let your mind steer, you can use even the storm to move forward. A strong mind will hear fear, but still take the leap. A strong mind will feel offended, but choose peace. A strong mind will experience grief, but still show up and build. Why? Because it knows the difference between emotion and truth. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, don't immediately retreat. Ask yourself, is this a signal or is this the whole story? The next time you feel unworthy, remember, that's just your emotions speaking. It's not the truth. You are capable. You are prepared. You are ready, even if your emotions don't agree yet. A strong mind makes decisions based on purpose, not pressure. A strong mind makes decisions based on purpose, not pressure. This is the line that separates the successful from the defeated, the empowered from the overwhelmed. Everyday life puts pressure on us, deadlines, expectations, crises, conflicts, and the moment pressure hits, our true nature is revealed. Do we crumble and make impulsive choices, or do we stand firm and let our purpose guide the way? You see, pressure is not the enemy, pressure is the test. It reveals whether you've built a mind strong enough to withstand the storm, or if you're still a ship tossed by every wave of emotion. Imagine a captain steering a ship through a violent storm. If he reacts to every thunderclap and crashing wave with panic, the ship will founder. But if he remembers the destination, the purpose of the voyage, and keeps steady hands on the wheel, the ship will survive and reach harbor. That is what a strong mind does. It remembers the purpose, it trusts the vision, and it refuses to be moved by the turbulence of emotion or pressure. The mind anchored in purpose does not bend to the noise of anxiety, fear, or impatience. Think about the moments when you've been under immense pressure, maybe at work, maybe in your family, or even in your own dreams. Pressure makes time feel like it's running out, the walls closing in, the weight unbearable. The pressure shouts, you must decide now, do something, anything. Don't wait. And if your mind is weak, if it's driven by emotion, you respond hastily, sometimes making choices you regret. But a strong mind pauses, it breathes, it asks, what is the purpose behind this decision? What is the goal worth fighting for? Because when decisions come from purpose, they withstand the pressure. When they come from panic, they shatter under it. Look at great leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. What sets them apart is not that they never faced pressure, but that their decisions came from a place of clarity and conviction, not confusion and chaos. They didn't allow the noise of pressure to drown out their purpose. When Steve Jobs was forced out of Apple, the pressure could have destroyed him. But his purpose, the vision to change the world with technology, kept his mind strong. He made decisions that were strategic, patient, and focused, not emotional reactions to failure. In your own life, the pressure will come. The bills might pile up. The people might doubt you. The setbacks might sting. But the question is, will you let that pressure dictate your next move? Or will you rise above it and make decisions based on your higher purpose? When you decide from purpose, you tap into an endless source of strength. You stop reacting like a frightened child and start responding like a wise adult. Sometimes the strongest decision you can make is to wait. Not out of fear, but out of faith in your purpose. Not to delay because you are weak, but to prepare because you are wise. Too many people rush decisions under pressure and later realize they moved away from their purpose. The pain of those mistakes could have been avoided if only they had trained their minds to hold steady. Pressure reveals your mental discipline. Pressure reveals your emotional control. Pressure reveals whether your mind leads or follows your feelings. The difference between success and failure is often the ability to sit with discomfort without reacting impulsively. It's to say to yourself, this pressure is temporary, but my purpose is permanent. The moment you understand this, you build a mind that can make choices regardless of what your emotions scream. You become like a mountain standing tall in a storm, unmoved by the winds of doubt, the rains of discouragement, or the thunder of fear. Here's a simple but powerful truth. When your mind is strong, pressure doesn't become panic, it becomes power. You learn to harness pressure like a blacksmith uses heat to forge steel. Instead of breaking, you bend. Instead of cracking, you create. You become unshakable because your decisions come from a foundation laid by purpose, not the shifting sands of emotion. Every decision you make shapes your future. When you decide under pressure without purpose, you're like a boat adrift in a stormy sea, tossed by every wave, heading nowhere. But when your mind anchors decisions in purpose, you are a ship on a course charted by vision and conviction. Pressure will still hit, storms will still come, but you will navigate through with wisdom and calm. Remember, life is not about reacting to every circumstance. It's about responding with intention. You don't have to feel ready to move forward. You just have to move with purpose. Purpose creates readiness. Purpose turns obstacles into opportunities. Purpose turns pressure into progress. So when you feel the heat of pressure, don't rush to escape it. Instead, ask yourself, what is my purpose in this moment? What choice aligns with the future I'm building? Let your mind be the captain of your emotions, not their servant. That is how you win. That is how you rise. That is how you become the master of your destiny, because a mind that decides based on purpose will never be ruled by pressure. It will always lead you to victory. Winning begins with self-discipline. Winning begins with self-discipline. It's not about luck, chance, or even pure talent. It's about the daily decisions you make to control yourself when no one is watching. The world often glamorizes success as if it were a gift handed to the fortunate. But the truth is, success bows only to the disciplined mind and the unwavering spirit. Every champion, every leader, every person who has truly won in life shares one secret. They learned to say no to themselves long before they ever said yes to the world. Think about the athlete who wakes up every morning before dawn, when the body still begs for rest and the mind whispers excuses. The temptation to stay in bed, to give in to comfort, to avoid the pain of training. This is the true battleground. Winning doesn't start when the stadium roars. It starts in the silent moments of self-control. That athlete disciplines their body and mind, choosing the discomfort of preparation over the ease of complacency. This is the essence of winning. It begins with saying no to the momentary pleasure of giving up and yes to the long-term reward of achievement. In your own life, you face the same battlefield. It might be in your career, where the easy path is to procrastinate, to delay, to avoid the hard conversations or the extra work that success demands. It might be in your health, where the couch and junk food whisper louder than the gym and the salad. It might be in your relationships, where bitterness or impatience tempt you to react in anger rather than respond with love. But winning demands that you choose discipline over desire, commitment over convenience, persistence over passivity. Self-discipline is the daily war you fight against your own weaknesses. It's the internal voice that says, I will do what is necessary, even if I don't feel like it. It's the power to hold your vision above your feelings, to act in accordance with your goals rather than your mood. When you master this, you become unstoppable. You learn that your emotions are like wild horses, but your discipline is the reins that steer them. Without discipline, emotions run wild and you end up lost, defeated by your own impulses. Imagine a student preparing for an important exam. The distractions of social media, friends, and entertainment are relentless. The emotional pull to escape into fun is strong, but the disciplined student chooses the quiet room, the open book, the focused mind. That discipline turns hours of study into mastery. That discipline transforms anxiety into confidence. And when exam day arrives, the student doesn't win by luck. They win because they train their mind to resist temptation and focus on the goal. This principle applies in every area of life. The entrepreneur who builds a business does not succeed because of a brilliant idea alone. They succeed because they discipline themselves to learn, to fail, to try again. They do not wait for motivation to strike. They create their own motivation through daily habits of persistence. The parent who raises children with integrity and love is disciplined to put their family above selfish desires. The artist who perfects their craft puts in the hours when inspiration is absent. Discipline is the bridge that turns dreams into reality. You must understand that winning is not a moment. It is a lifestyle. It's the accumulation of small, disciplined actions taken consistently. It's waking up early when the bed feels warm, choosing the hard truth over comforting lies, keeping your word to yourself when no one else is watching. Discipline forms character. Character forms destiny. There is a story of a man who wanted to change his life. Every day, he promised himself he would start exercising, eat better, read more, be kinder. But every day, emotions like laziness, doubt, and distraction pulled him away. One day, he realized that waiting to feel motivated was waiting forever, so he began with one disciplined act, a 5-minute walk. The next day, he added a little more. Slowly, those small acts built momentum. His mind grew stronger than his emotions, his body stronger than his excuses. That man won, not because the mountain was easier, but because his discipline was greater than his doubts. Winning is the choice to lead yourself, not to be led by fleeting feelings. It is to say, I am the master of my habits, the captain of my soul. When your mind is disciplined, it commands your emotions instead of being commanded by them. It refuses to give in to the temptation of quitting when things get tough. It chooses endurance when others give up. It embraces responsibility when others blame. Winning demands you sacrifice short-term gratification for long-term greatness. It demands focus when distractions scream louder than your dreams. It demands patience when the world expects immediate results. Your self-discipline is the engine that drives this journey. It fuels your ability to keep going when your emotions want you to stop. It is the difference between a life lived by chance and a life crafted by choice. Remember, every victory in history is written in the ink of discipline. The great minds, the powerful leaders, the successful visionaries, they did not win because the path was easy or their emotions were always aligned with their goals. They won because their discipline was unshakable. They chose to act with intention every single day. They understood that the mind, when trained and disciplined, is the greatest weapon you possess. So when you wake up tomorrow, ask yourself, will I be ruled by my emotions or will I master them with discipline? Will I choose the path of least resistance or will I choose the road that leads to victory? Winning begins with self-discipline. It begins with you making the choice today to govern your mind, command your emotions, and shape your destiny. Emotional sabotage is the enemy of greatness. Emotional sabotage is the silent thief that steals your dreams when you're not looking. It's that voice inside that whispers doubt when you should be shouting confidence. It's the invisible hand that pushes you toward comfort when you should be chasing growth. Too many people fail not because they lack talent or opportunity, because they allow their own emotions to sabotage their potential. This sabotage often looks like fear disguised as caution, hesitation dressed up as wisdom, or self-doubt masquerading as humility. But make no mistake, emotional sabotage is the enemy of greatness, and it must be recognized, confronted, and conquered. Think about the times you've held back, not because the path was impossible, but because your emotions screamed, what if you fail? Or what if you're not good enough? These thoughts are emotional saboteurs. They tell you stories designed to keep you safe, but actually keep you stuck. A man once told me he wanted to start his own business, but delayed for years because he was afraid of rejection, afraid his idea wasn't perfect. That fear, that hesitation, was emotional sabotage. It kept him locked in a place far below his potential. The moment he recognized it, he made a choice to act in spite of fear, and his life changed forever. Emotional sabotage thrives in the soil of uncertainty and discomfort. When you face challenges, it's easy for your mind to slip into old patterns, telling you to avoid pain, to stay in what's familiar, to resist change. But those patterns are traps. They disguise themselves as protection, but are really prisons. You may feel safe in the moment, but over time, that safety becomes stagnation. When emotions sabotage your progress, they are building walls where there should be doors. Look at the athlete who faces a critical game. The pressure mounts, emotions rise, and suddenly the mind floods with negative self-talk. I'm not ready. I can't handle this. I'm going to let everyone down. This is emotional sabotage taking hold at the worst possible time. But champions know this battle well. They train their minds to recognize these sabotaging thoughts as lies. They say, this is just emotion. My preparation, my discipline, my purpose are stronger than this moment of doubt. When they win, it's because their mind refused to be hijacked by emotion. The workplace is another battlefield for emotional sabotage. Maybe you're up for a promotion or about to pitch a bold idea. The emotions stir, nervousness, insecurity, fear of judgment. Suddenly you second-guess yourself, cancel meetings, or mute your voice. That is emotional sabotage, robbing you of your voice and opportunity. But remember, your emotions don't define your capability. Your mind, when trained to rise above emotional sabotage, says, I will speak, I will act, I will not be paralyzed by fear. Sometimes emotional sabotage shows up as anger or frustration that blinds your judgment. You get hurt by a colleague's words or actions, and your emotions beg you to retaliate or shut down. But a strong mind recognizes this as sabotage. It pauses, assesses, and chooses a response that aligns with your greater goal instead of the raw emotional reaction. It's like a general who doesn't charge recklessly into battle but strategizes for victory. Emotional sabotage also thrives in the realm of relationships. When conflicts arise, emotions can cloud clarity and fuel destructive patterns. You might say things you regret, walk away from conversations, or build walls instead of bridges. That is emotional sabotage at work, eroding connection and trust. But when your mind leads, it reminds you of your purpose to love, to grow, to understand, and you choose patience over pride, empathy over anger. You break the cycle of sabotage and create space for healing and progress. Fear is one of the most common faces of emotional sabotage. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. It is an emotion, not a fact. But many live as if fear is the ultimate truth. The brave are not those without fear, but those who act in spite of it. When you feel fear rising, remind yourself that it's just emotion trying to sabotage your dreams. The decision to act anyway is the decision to reclaim your power and push toward greatness. Imagine a student standing at the edge of an opportunity, applying for a scholarship, auditioning for a role, asking for help. The emotional sabotage might whisper, you're not good enough, or they will say no. But those are just shadows cast by emotion. The student who wins knows that mind must rise above these whispers. The student steps forward, chooses courage over comfort, and changes the course of their life. Your mind can be trained to recognize emotional sabotage as the enemy. It's not about ignoring emotions, they are part of being human, but about mastering them so they don't master you. When your mind is stronger than your emotions, emotional sabotage loses its power. You learn to face discomfort with determination, to confront doubt with faith in yourself, to see setbacks as setups for comebacks. The greatest victories happen when the mind says, I will not be stopped. Even when emotions scream, give up. When your mind is stronger than your emotions, you become unstoppable. You turn emotional sabotage into emotional strength. You transform fear into fuel. You take what could break you and build from it a foundation that nothing can shake. This is the power of mastering your mind over your emotions. Train your mind like a warrior. Training your mind like a warrior means preparing yourself for battle every single day, not against an external enemy, but against the chaos within. Life will throw storms, doubts, fears, and distractions your way. And if your mind is not trained to stand firm, you will be swept away. A warrior doesn't wait for the war to come. He trains in peace to be ready for the fight. Your mind is your battlefield, and if you don't discipline it, your emotions will take control and lead you into defeat. This is why training your mind is not optional, it's essential. It is the difference between being a victim of circumstance and being a victor over circumstance. Imagine the warrior who rises before dawn, not because it is easy, but because discipline demands it. While the world still sleeps, he sharpens his skills, hones his strength, and steals his focus. He endures pain, rejection, and fatigue because he knows that victory does not come to the lazy or the distracted. The same applies to your mind. You must wake up daily with a purpose to strengthen your thoughts, your focus, your resolve. When distractions and negative emotions come knocking, your mind has already been trained to say, not today. Your mental armor is built by deliberate practice, reading, meditating, planning, and most importantly, choosing what thoughts you allow to enter your mind. This training requires consistency. It's not enough to fight your emotional battles once in a while when things get hard. A warrior trains every day, even when there is no immediate threat. Why? Because battles come without warning. Life's challenges don't wait until you feel ready. The disciplined mind anticipates struggle and prepares to face it head on. This is why habits matter. The thoughts you nurture repeatedly become your default mindset. If you repeatedly tell yourself, I am strong, I can overcome, this too shall pass, you are training your mind to respond with courage and calm when emotions threaten to overwhelm. Let me share a story. There was a man who dreamed of starting a business, but every time he faced a setback, his emotions told him to quit. Frustration, fear, and doubt became his enemies. But instead of surrendering, he decided to train his mind like a warrior. Every morning, he began affirming his goals and visualizing success. When fear tried to stop him, he pushed through with the mindset that failure was only temporary. When doubt whispered lies, he challenged them with facts and evidence of his progress. This daily mental training transformed him from a man controlled by fear into a man led by determination. Training your mind also means controlling the narrative inside your head. Too often, we listen to the loudest voice, our emotions, which are often irrational and misleading. A warrior learns to be the general of his mind, not a passenger. He listens carefully to the emotions, acknowledges them, but never lets them dictate his actions. When anxiety screams, you can't do this, the trained mind counters, I am prepared, I have done the work. When anger rises, the warrior pauses and asks, will this reaction serve my victory or ruin it? This control is not natural for most, it is earned through deliberate effort. Your mind is also trained by the company you keep. A warrior knows that battles are not fought alone and that the wrong allies can weaken his resolve. Surround yourself with voices that strengthen your mind, challenge your doubts, and inspire your growth. Remove or distance yourself from those who feed your emotional sabotage. The training is holistic. It involves what you consume mentally, emotionally, and socially. Feed your mind with positivity, wisdom, and courage. Starve it of negativity, fear, and complacency. Training your mind like a warrior includes the courage to face your own weaknesses. A true warrior does not pretend to be invincible. He studies his vulnerabilities so he can overcome them. This means identifying which emotions most easily sabotage your progress. Maybe it's impatience, fear of failure, or self-doubt, and creating strategies to counter them. It means pushing yourself out of your comfort zone daily to build resilience. Each challenge met and conquered is a victory in training that prepares you for bigger battles ahead. In daily life, this training might look like choosing to act despite your fears. It could be making that difficult phone call, applying for the job you think is out of reach, or standing firm on your principles when pressured to conform. It means getting back up when you fail instead of hiding behind excuses. Every time you do this, you sharpen your mental discipline and prove to yourself that your mind is stronger than your emotions. Remember, the warrior's mind is focused on the mission, not the momentary discomfort. When life gets tough, emotions scream louder, and the temptation to give in grows stronger. But the trained mind holds steady. It understands that discomfort is temporary and victory is eternal. It knows that the pain of discipline is far less than the pain of regret. The warrior says, I will endure because my purpose is greater than my pain. The warrior's mind is also adaptable. It learns to pivot and strategize rather than break under pressure. When a plan fails, the warrior doesn't collapse. He recalculates and advances with wisdom. This mental flexibility comes only from rigorous training and experience. It requires a willingness to learn from failure rather than fear it. Training your mind like a warrior means building mental toughness that sustains you through life's storms. It means developing the inner strength to control your emotions instead of being controlled by them. It means becoming the leader of your thoughts and actions so that no matter what life throws at you, you can stand firm, act decisively, and move forward with confidence and clarity. This is the power that turns ordinary people into champions, dreams into realities, and struggles into victories. Emotional intelligence is power. Emotional intelligence is not just a skill, it is a superpower that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. It's the ability to understand and manage not only your own emotions, but also to read and influence the emotions of others. When you master emotional intelligence, you gain control over the one thing that can either build you up or tear you down, your emotional world. Think about it. How often have you seen people with great talents fail simply because they couldn't manage their emotions? Or others with modest abilities succeed because they mastered their feelings and interactions? Emotional intelligence is the secret weapon of every great leader, innovator, and champion. Imagine a situation where you are faced with a difficult conversation at work. A colleague criticizes your work harshly and publicly. Without emotional intelligence, the natural reaction might be to respond defensively, lash out, or shut down completely. Emotions run wild, hurt, anger, embarrassment. But a person with high emotional intelligence recognizes these emotions without letting them take control. They take a breath, understand the emotional triggers at play, and respond with calmness and clarity. They might say, I hear your concerns. Let's discuss how we can improve this together. This kind of response not only diffuses conflict, but earns respect and opens the door to collaboration. Emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness. It means having the courage to look inside and honestly assess how your feelings influence your decisions. How often do we make choices based on temporary feelings like frustration or excitement, only to regret them later? Self-awareness allows you to pause, reflect, and choose a course of action that serves your highest goals instead of being hijacked by fleeting emotions. Think about a time you've been upset and made a rash decision, maybe sending a harsh message or quitting a project too soon. Emotional intelligence would guide you to recognize the emotional surge and delay action until clarity returns. That pause is the power move, the moment when your mind asserts control over your emotions. Beyond self-awareness, emotional intelligence includes self-regulation, your ability to manage and direct your emotions constructively. This is where many stumble because it is one thing to notice emotions, but another to channel them productively. When frustration builds, do you let it fester into resentment, or do you redirect it into motivation? When fear knocks at your door, do you shut yourself in or open it just enough to let courage in? Self-regulation turns emotional energy into fuel for progress rather than fire for destruction. Empathy is another crucial part of emotional intelligence. It's the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand their feelings and perspectives. This skill is transformative in relationships, whether personal or professional. A leader who empathizes with their team inspires loyalty and trust. A friend who understands your struggles offers comfort and strength. Empathy prevents misunderstandings and helps build bridges instead of walls. When you practice empathy, you stop reacting from your own emotional biases and start responding to the real needs of others. Imagine how many conflicts and missed opportunities could be avoided if we all practiced empathy more deeply. Social skills, the final pillar of emotional intelligence, are about using your emotional understanding to communicate effectively, resolve conflicts, and influence others positively. It's one thing to feel deeply, it's another to express those feelings in a way that strengthens connections rather than fractures them. People with strong social skills know how to listen actively, give constructive feedback, and inspire action. They navigate difficult conversations with grace and lead teams with vision. When you combine emotional intelligence with social skills, you become a magnet for opportunities because people want to work with someone who understands and uplifts them. Consider the story of a woman who managed a team that was on the brink of collapse. Morale was low, tensions were high, and productivity was plummeting. Instead of reacting with blame or punishment, she tapped into her emotional intelligence. She listened to her team's frustrations, acknowledged their feelings, and then guided them to focus on shared goals. She modeled calmness and positivity even when the pressure mounted. Slowly, the team transformed. They began to trust each other again, collaborate effectively, and surpass their targets. Her emotional intelligence was the catalyst for this turnaround. Emotional intelligence also gives you resilience. Life will knock you down emotionally, disappointments, betrayals, failures. The person with emotional intelligence doesn't let these knocks define them. They feel the pain, learn from the experience, and rise stronger. Their mind is trained to see obstacles as lessons and setbacks as setups for comebacks. Emotional intelligence helps you maintain your equilibrium in the storm, to keep your eyes on the prize when emotions threaten to blur your vision. In your own life, developing emotional intelligence means becoming fluent in the language of emotions. Your own and others, it means practicing patience with yourself when emotions run high and extending that patience to those around you. It means asking, what am I really feeling right now? What does this feeling want me to know? How can I respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively? It means choosing to lead with understanding rather than force, to inspire rather than intimidate. The greatest leaders and achievers didn't reach their heights by suppressing their emotions, but by mastering them. They knew that intelligence without emotional control is like a car without brakes, dangerous and destined for disaster. Emotional intelligence is the brake and the accelerator, the steering wheel and the compass that guides you to victory. When your emotional intelligence is strong, you don't just survive life challenges, you transform them into stepping stones for greatness. This power, this mastery over your emotional world is the ultimate key to winning in life. The mind sees opportunity where emotion sees danger. The mind sees opportunity where emotion sees danger. This statement holds a profound truth that many overlook in the heat of life's challenges. When your emotions take the driver's seat, fear and doubt magnify the obstacles in front of you, making mountains out of molehills. But a strong mind, the mind of a winner, sees beyond the immediate emotional turbulence and focuses on the possibilities that lie within the struggle. It understands that every challenge, every setback, every moment of discomfort carries within it the seeds of opportunity. Think about this in the context of everyday life. Imagine you're about to start a new project, launch a business, or even speak up in a meeting. Your emotions might scream, "This is too risky. What if you fail? What if people judge you?" That voice is powerful, but it is not your true leader. The mind trained and disciplined, steps in and says, yes, there is risk. Yes, there may be failure, but within this risk is the chance for growth, learning, and eventual success. What can I control? How can I prepare? Where is the opportunity hidden here? That shift from emotional fear to mental clarity is the moment where winners are made. Let me share a story you can relate to. There was a young man who dreamed of starting his own business. Every time he thought about it, waves of anxiety hit him. Fear of losing money, fear of embarrassment, fear of not being good enough. His emotions saw danger everywhere, but his mind, sharpened by reading, reflection, and mentorship, challenged those feelings. He asked himself, what if I looked at this not as danger, but as an opportunity to learn, to build, to create? Slowly, he began taking steps, small, calculated steps that moved him forward. When setbacks came, instead, it analyzed, adapted, and found new openings. What his emotions had labeled as danger, his mind transformed into the doorway to success. This is the power of perception. How you choose to see the world determines what you find in it. Emotions often cloud judgment by amplifying the negatives, but the mind has the power to cut through the fog. This is why emotional reactivity often leads to missed chances. The person who acts out of fear may close doors that the mind could have opened with a calm, rational approach. Your mind can scan the landscape and say, there are risks, but there is also tremendous potential. How do I take advantage of it? Daily life is filled with examples. Think about athletes on the verge of a critical performance. The emotions tell them, you can't do this. You're too tired, too scared, but their minds remind them of the training, the discipline, the countless hours of preparation. Their mind sees victory, their emotions see only danger. The athlete who lets their mind dominate is the one who crosses the finish line first. The same principle applies to you, no matter your field or situation. This battle between mind and emotion is not about ignoring feelings, but about mastering the lens through which you view them. Emotions are powerful indicators. They tell you what matters, what you care about. But if you let emotions be your only guide, you will be a prisoner of circumstance. A strong mind listens to emotion but doesn't surrender to it. It steps back and asks, is this feeling true? Is this fear based on fact or illusion? What is the bigger picture here? When the mind takes this position, it transforms fear into a challenge, anxiety into motivation, and hesitation into action. Imagine a scenario at work where a new responsibility is handed to you. Your emotions might react with stress and doubt. I'm not ready. What if I fail? But your mind sees the hidden opportunity. This is a chance to prove your skills, to grow, to get noticed. The mind encourages you to prepare, to plan, to rise to the occasion. This mental perspective shift is crucial because it changes the entire outcome. The emotions scream retreat, the mind urges advance. The victor is the one who listens to the mind. This principle also applies to relationships. When conflicts arise, emotions can make situations feel threatening and cause reactions like anger, withdrawal, or blame. But a strong mind sees an opportunity to deepen understanding, to communicate better, and to build trust. It looks beyond the emotional heat to the long-term benefit. Instead of reacting, it responds thoughtfully. This ability to perceive opportunity where emotion sees danger turns potential breakdowns into breakthroughs. What if you could develop this skill on purpose? What if every time fear or doubt tried to paralyze you, your mind immediately identified the opportunity beneath the surface? This is the mindset of a champion, a leader, a person who refuses to be defeated by the noise of emotion. It is cultivated through intentional practice, pausing before reacting, asking powerful questions, seeking facts, and focusing on solutions rather than problems. Every time you face a tough situation, practice this mental discipline. When your heart pounds with fear or your thoughts swirl with doubt, remind yourself, my mind is stronger than my emotions. I choose to see the opportunity. This is not just motivational talk. It is a transformative way to live. It changes how you approach challenges, how you interact with others, and how you shape your destiny. Remember, emotion is a powerful force, but it is the mind that leads to victory. The mind is the commander, the strategist, the visionary. When your mind sees opportunity where emotion sees danger, you don't just survive, you thrive. This is the key to winning in business, in relationships, and in life itself. It is the difference between being a victim of your feelings and becoming the master of your fate. The choice is yours every moment. Will you let your emotions define you, or will you let your mind lead you to greatness? Every breakthrough requires emotional mastery. Every breakthrough in life, whether in business, relationships, or personal growth, demands one crucial ingredient: emotional mastery. Without it, the brightest ideas, the most brilliant plans, and the strongest can crumble under the weight of unchecked feelings. Many people have dreams, visions, and goals, but they stumble and fall because their emotions overwhelm their minds. They get caught in the storm of frustration, fear, or anger and lose sight of the path forward. But those who truly win, the ones who break barriers and redefine their lives, have learned to master their emotions, not let their emotions master them. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. The peak represents your breakthrough, the achievement you've been working toward. The climb is tough, steep paths, loose rocks, unpredictable weather. Your emotions are like the weather, sometimes a calm breeze, sometimes a raging storm. If you allow the storm to control your every step, you'll lose footing and fall. But if your mind remains steady, like a skilled mountaineer reading the weather, choosing the safest path despite the storm, you will reach the summit. Emotional mastery is that steady mind guiding you through the chaos. Think of a time when you faced a setback, maybe a failed project, a broken relationship, or a missed opportunity. The immediate emotional response might have been disappointment, sadness, or even anger. These feelings are natural, but what defines your breakthrough is what you do next. Do you let those emotions trap you in a cycle of regret and bitterness? Or do you acknowledge the pain, learn from it, and keep moving forward? Emotional mastery means you recognize the emotional impact but refuse to be paralyzed by it. You choose resilience over retreat. Every great leader you admire has faced emotional storms. They didn't get to where they are by denying their feelings, but by managing them with precision. When Steve Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he founded, he could have let anger and despair define him. Instead, he used that emotional pain as fuel to innovate and come back stronger. When Oprah Winfrey faced rejection early in her career, she could have been consumed by disappointment, but she chose to channel her emotions into determination and vision. These breakthroughs didn't happen despite their emotions, they happened because they mastered them. Emotional mastery is not about suppressing feelings, it's about understanding and directing them. Emotions are powerful signals that something matters to you, but they are not instructions for action. When fear whispers, "You can't do this," emotional mastery enables you to say, "I feel fear, but I will act anyway." When frustration screams, "Give up," emotional mastery says, "I acknowledge this frustration, and I will push through." This mental discipline transforms emotions from obstacles into allies. Consider the story of a young woman preparing for an important exam that could change her life. The pressure mounts, anxiety spikes, and doubt creeps in. Her emotions want to shut her down, to convince her she's not ready, but her mind, trained in emotional mastery, tells her to breathe, to focus on what she knows, and to take the exam one question at a time. She controls her emotional reactions, keeping them in check, and performs beyond her own expectations. This moment of emotional mastery is the breakthrough that opens the door to a new future. In relationships, emotional mastery is equally vital. Arguments and misunderstandings ignite because emotions run wild, but the person who masters emotions listens before reacting, seeks to understand rather than to blame, and chooses peace over pride. Emotional mastery transforms potential conflicts into opportunities for deeper connection. It's the difference between a relationship that crumbles under pressure and one that grows stronger through challenges. In business, emotional mastery separates successful entrepreneurs from those who falter. The market fluctuates, competitors emerge, deals fall through, and setbacks occur. The emotional response might be panic or frustration, but emotional mastery allows the entrepreneur to remain calm, analyze the situation, and pivot strategically. It's the ability to separate emotional reactions from logical decisions that leads to breakthrough innovations and lasting success. You may wonder, how do you develop this mastery? It begins with awareness, the simple but powerful step of noticing your emotions without judgment. When anger, fear, or doubt arise, pause and ask, what is this emotion telling me? Is it helping or hindering my progress? Next comes choice. You always have a choice in how to respond. Will you let emotions dictate your actions, or will you harness them as energy for progress? Practice breathing, reflection, and reframing your thoughts. Surround yourself with mentors and role models who embody emotional mastery. Every day offers opportunities to practice, to fail, and to improve. Remember that emotional mastery is a journey, not a destination. Even the greatest masters face emotional challenges. What sets them apart is their commitment to rise each time emotions threaten to overwhelm. They understand that breakthroughs require patience, persistence, and above all, control over the inner emotional landscape. When your mind guides your emotions, you gain clarity, strength, and unstoppable momentum. The emotional storms become less threatening because you are no longer a victim of the weather. You are the skilled navigator. Breakthroughs are not random acts of luck. They are the product of a mind trained to master emotions, to see beyond temporary discomfort to long-term victory. When frustration, fear, or doubt knock on your door, answer with calm confidence, I am stronger than these emotions. I choose breakthrough. This declaration is more than words. It is a commitment to yourself and your destiny. In the arena of life, emotional mastery is your armor and your sword. It protects you from the chaos of feelings that seek to derail your progress and arms you with the power to take decisive action. It is the difference between surrendering to circumstance and shaping your own fate. The mind that controls the emotions will always find the path to victory because it knows that every breakthrough begins not outside of you, but within. Your greatest breakthroughs lie just beyond the edge of emotional mastery. As you train your mind to lead, your emotions will follow, and together they will propel you to heights you once only dreamed of. This is the essence of winning. Not just in moments of success, but in the daily battles of life where true champions are made. At the end of the day, the battle is not against the people who doubt you. It's not against the circumstances that pressure you. The real battle, the one that determines everything, is inside of you. It's the war between your mind and your emotions. One sees possibility, the other sees panic. One sees the path, the other sees the pain, and your victory will always follow the one you choose to obey. This world doesn't reward those who feel the most. It rewards those who think the clearest, the ones who can stand in a storm and still see direction, the ones who cry but keep walking, the ones who get knocked down but get up not because they feel strong, but because they decide to be. Your emotions may scream louder, but your mind has the final say. You've got to stop letting feelings make permanent decisions in temporary moments. Don't you know how many destinies are buried under emotional decisions? How many businesses weren't started because of fear? How many marriages ended because of pride? How many dreams were aborted because someone felt unworthy? Feelings are valid, but they are not verdicts. You've got to get up and say, I will not let my emotions sabotage my mission. You've got to say, I feel the fear, but I'm doing it anyway. I feel the anger, but I'll choose peace. I feel the sadness, but I'll walk in joy. I feel the pressure, but I will not break. That is what separates warriors from wanderers, champions from complainers, builders from blamers. You were not created to be a prisoner of your mood swings. You were born to lead your life with purpose and power. When your mind is strong, nothing can hijack your destiny. Not failure, not rejection, not disappointment. Because your mind speaks a greater truth than your temporary emotion. Listen to me, emotion is the spark, but the mind is the engine. Emotion is the wave, but the mind is the anchor. Emotion reacts, but the mind responds, and response creates results. If you want to change your life, don't wait until it feels right. Train your mind until it thinks right. Discipline is the bridge between vision and manifestation, and that bridge is not built on comfort. It's built on mental strength, so build it every single day. Train your mind to serve your future, not your fears. Train it to say, I am not what I feel. I am what I decide. That's the kind of strength that changes lives. That's the kind of mindset that builds legacies. Because let me tell you something, the strongest people aren't the loudest in the room. They're the ones who mastered themselves in silence. The ones who had every reason to fold but didn't. The ones who attempted to give up but chose to press in. The ones who stopped reacting and started rising. You don't need everyone to understand you. You just need to understand yourself. You don't need everyone to support you. You just need your own discipline to show up for your vision. And you don't need to control how you feel. You need to control what you do in spite of how you feel. There comes a time in every life when you must stop blaming how you feel and start building what you believe. It's not about waiting for peace. It's about becoming it. It's not about waiting for confidence. It's about commanding it. You've got to say, I'm not led by my emotions. I lead my emotions. I'm not a victim of my feelings. I am the master of my mind. And when you do that, when you stop reacting and start ruling, when you stop running and start rising, when you stop doubting and start deciding, that's when you win. Because you can only win when your mind is stronger than your emotions. Now go train it like your life depends on it, because it does.